So what you're going to be doing today is working with a skull. So you're going to go to File, New, and you are going to change from pixels to inches, and your width is going to be 11, and your height is going to be 8.5. Again, it has to be inches at 72 resolution. When you press Create, you should be getting a long rectangle. I did Control 0 so it better fits on my screen. Some students in my class are working on creating GIFs, so the timeline might be open. You do not need the timeline for this project, so make sure that you do Close Tab Group. So here I have my project. The first thing that I want to do is I want to set up my brush, so I'm going to do Brush. I want the opacity to be low, so I'm going to go down to anywhere between 20 to 30 is fine, %. And I want to use a soft edge. No, I do. I want to stay with the hard edge brush. And I'm going to come down here and I'm going to get a lighter gray because these are going to be some quick sketchy lines that I'm creating. And I'm going to unlock this and I'm going to do Layer, New. So I'm going to do Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to name this Sketch. And because I have my brush set up at a 24% opacity, the more I go over that area, the darker the color will be. So because we're working with a skull, I want to create a circle, or right, even better, a sphere. So because I'm working with the skull, I'm going to do this circle area for the top part of the skull. And now I'm going to do a line that comes down to create the jaw. A lot of kids say that to start, this looks almost like a bird's beak. Okay. And then the other thing is I need to find a spot for my eyes, and because this is a curved object, I'm going to do a curved line. And my first eye is going to go here. My second eye is going to go here. And then I have a nose that's going to come down. And the mouth. Okay. I'm working a lot faster than I want you guys to, and I'm hoping you're noticing the more that I go over an area, the darker it becomes, which is extremely helpful to create those sketchy lines. Whatever you're drawing now might not be visible when the project is done, just like when you're in the art room and you begin to start drawing something. You will, as you work your way around your piece, you will start to erase or cover up those lines with more accurate or correct lines. So I have the basic sketch down. Now I can go up to Layer, New Layer, and I can start to do my outline. Because I want my outline to show up darker than the current lines, I'm changing my color to a little bit of a darker gray, and I do want you guys to stay in the black to white gray area for this project. And I also am going to increase my opacity just a bit. I'm going to be closer to 50% now. 40 to 50 is fine. And now I can start to make maybe some more precise lines and start to clean up my skull shape so that it matches more of what it is that I would like to create. Okay? And as you can see, this is one that I've been working on. This is my outline, my very quick outline. And then let me come down here. I created a gradient, and I have a little red in it because I thought that that would be nice to have some subtle color. And then here's my outline. Here's some darker shadows that I began to add on top. Here's an inner shadow, and the way how I ended up doing this is because it's on its own layer, right? I can get my soft edge eraser and I can actually, oops, I'm on the wrong layer. Inner shadow. And I can actually erase, right? And it only erases that layer. So it's extremely important that as you're working, you're creating different layers. I decided to also add a table and a shadow, which you need to do as well, because otherwise it'll just look like you have a floating skull. And then, just like I taught you guys already, you want to sign your work, okay? And in order to sign it, right, you're going to do Layer, New Layer, name it. I'm just putting sign 2 because I already have a layer. And remember, when you're working, it's easier for us to kind of sign larger, which is fine, because then you can Control T, and holding the Shift key, you can scale it to the size that you want. Remember, your signature is not the most important thing in the artwork, so you want it to be small and more subtle, okay? So that's the signature. And I have it down here. And if you want to date it, you could put, you know, the year at the end of it for your signature. And the other thing that I wanted to show you guys is I don't really like how my skull is scooted way over in the corner. So I'm going to click on my top layer and hold the shift key all the way down to my bottom layer. But I don't want my background to be a part of this. So I'm going to press and hold my control key, and that lets go of that. And now I'm going to do control T, and I can start to move this. And I'm actually going to move this over a little bit so that it's not perfectly in the center, but this negative space over here isn't taking up so much of the work. And then I'm going to go back to my table shadow layer, and I'm going to eyedrop that darker color, and I'm going to go to my brush, B for brush, and I'm going to go a little bit darker. And then I'm going to, with my stylus, come over here and finish drawing that table line. And then remember that opacity is really nice because it allows us to create kind of that line that we would create in the art room using our pencil, where the more we press down in a certain area, the darker it becomes. I don't mind the quick sketchy lines for this project. If you don't like that, you could always go back in with a soft edge eraser or even a smudge tool. So you could use your eraser, or the smudge tool is behind here. And you know, you could, you know, blend these if you don't like how harsh those lines are. All right. And I also noticed that I need to move my signature back over. So let me come back up. Sign, signature. Whoops. So I have to turn off my layer auto select up here so that it only grabs my signature, and then I can move that over. And I've only demonstrated using the shadows. If you get far today, otherwise next class the focus would be working on the highlights. So now I can go in, layer, new layer, highlights. I want this to be on the top in my layers menu. And, you know, where would those highlights be? Looking at the skull that you're holding, they would be up in the top of the skull. And so then you can start to add highlights, okay? And maybe I also need to go back in and around here. These teeth obviously are not acceptable. You guys need to go in and make nicer teeth. But this is how you would go in and you would add the highlights. Squinting while looking at your skull, or squinting while you look at your artwork, will also help you to get your highlights and shadows to show better if you're having trouble seeing them. When everything is said and done, you're going to do a save as, and you're going to name it your last name skull PSD to your folder. And then you're going to do a file save as again, and you're going to switch it, and you're going to save it as a JPEG, and the JPEG is what I need you to turn in for a grade.